There exists a road not marked on any map. It winds inward, away from the applause, the crowds, and the chatter of the world. This is the path of the loner. It is not for those who seek comfort. It is not for those who need to be seen. It is for those whose souls have grown too large to be contained by the shallow definitions of belonging when the world fades into silence and the distractions are stripped away. What remains is the raw presence of your own being. Solitude is not merely the absence of others. It is the sacred container where the surface self begins to dissolve. In the stillness, the identity you crafted to please others, to survive, to belong, begins to fall apart. At first, it feels like death. The ego resists, desperate to hold on to its masks, but solitude does not negotiate. It burns away the artificial, the rehearsed, the expected. In this fire, what is not real cannot survive. But what is essential, what is truly yours, begins to glow with an ancient light. This is not the personality that was shaped by society or the self-image sculpted by praise and punishment. This is the deeper self, the one who is always waiting beneath the noise, untouched, incorruptible, sovereign. To endure this furnace is to agree to a sacred undoing. It is to let go of the comforts of collective identity and risk the terrifying encounter with your own vastness. You begin to notice thoughts you've never allowed yourself to hear. Emotions long buried rise to the surface. The ghosts of your past, the pain you denied, the dreams you abandoned. They all return, not to torment you, but to ask for recognition. They are the ashes from which something new is born, and yet, this process is not about improvement or perfection. It is about authenticity. The solitude becomes an alchemical space where the soul is refined, not to fit into a mold, but to stand in its original shape. What emerges is not someone better, but someone real, someone whole, someone who knows their own depths because they have walked through them alone. In a world addicted to validation, the one who can sit in solitude and not shatter becomes rare. They are no longer ruled by the hunger to be seen because they have already seen themselves. They have touched their own soul and learned to trust its fire. To be misunderstood is often feared, seen as a failure of communication, a wound to the ego, or a threat to belonging. But there is a strange kind of freedom in it, a liberation that few dare to embrace. When no one fully understands you, you are released from the invisible chains of expectation. You no longer have to shape your words or bend your essence to fit the minds of others. You are no longer imprisoned by their projections, their assumptions, or their need to make you comprehensible. In being misunderstood, you are finally allowed to exist in your own mystery. The compulsion to be understood is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It whispers, translate yourself so you can be accepted, dilute your truth so others are comfortable. But the loner begins to see through this illusion. They recognize that the soul was never meant to be completely legible to the world. The deepest parts of the psyche are not easily named. They are poetic, symbolic, strange. To demand full understanding is to force the vastness of your being into a cage too small to hold it. Being misunderstood becomes a shield, a cloak of invisibility that allows the inner work to unfold untouched by outer interference. You no longer waste energy explaining the unexplainable or apologizing for your depth. You stop trying to manage others' perceptions and instead tend to your own authenticity. The loneliness that comes with it is not a punishment. It is a refinement. It separates you from the noise and brings you closer to the essence. In time, you begin to love this space. You begin to see that truth does not require witnesses, that clarity is not always external, and that the solitude of being unseen by the world allows you to be fully seen by your own soul. You are no longer bound by the need to be understood. You are bound only to what is real within you. That is the beginning of true freedom. There comes a moment on the loner's path when the silence becomes unbearable, not because of the absence of others, but because of the presence of something darker within. It stirs in the forgotten corners of your psyche, the thoughts you've rejected, the emotions you've suppressed, the memories you've buried under years of survival. It shows up in moods you can't explain, in anger that seems disproportionate, in fears that have no clear source. This is the shadow, not a demon from outside, but a part of you you've refused to know. The common instinct is to fight it, to pretend it doesn't exist, to push it down again, or to run back into the light of distraction and praise. But the loner, if they are honest, begins to recognize that the shadow does not go away. It waits, it follows, and the more it is denied, the more power it gains. Yet something radical happens when you stop running. When you turn toward it, when you finally say, "Show me what I've tried to forget." The shadow, once feared, reveals its true nature, not as a curse, but as a companion. It is not there to destroy you, but to complete you. It carries the parts of your vitality you had to exile in order to be loved, accepted, or safe. The rage you buried is not just fury, it is power. The envy you disowned is not just poison. It is a mirror showing you what you truly desire. The sadness you repressed is not weakness. It is the tenderness you were never allowed to feel. Each piece of the shadow holds a truth that was once too painful to face. But now, on this path, you are ready. And integration does not mean perfection, it means wholeness. It means admitting that you are not only your light, your goodness, your strength. You are also your contradiction, your vulnerability, your depth. The shadow teaches humility, because it reveals your capacity for harm, but it also teaches compassion, because it shows you that everyone carries this same inner battle, hidden beneath their masks. To walk with your shadow is to become more real, more rooted, more free. You no longer have to pretend. You no longer need to judge others for the parts of themselves you were afraid to own in yourself. You stop seeking purity and begin seeking truth. And in doing so, you become dangerous, not to others, but to falsehood. Because a person who has faced their shadow cannot be manipulated, cannot be shamed, cannot be divided against themselves. The loner who befriends the shadow is not lonely. They are accompanied by the full spectrum of who they are. They have walked through their inner night and come out not with fear, but with eyes that see in the dark. When the noise dies down, the constant scroll, the chatter of others' opinions, the pressure to perform, to please, to produce something ancient begins to stir beneath the surface. The mind, no longer whipped by urgency, becomes still enough to hear a deeper rhythm. In this silence, the symbols begin to emerge, not invented, not forced. They come on their own, like forgotten messengers returning with meaning in their hands. These symbols are not decorations for the mind. They are the language of the soul. They are how the deepest parts of you speak when words are not enough. They arrive in dreams, in flashes of intuition, in images that haunt you without logic. They repeat until you pay attention. The more still you become, the louder they speak. A bird in a dream, a recurring number, a figure in the mist, a moment in a song that feels like it remembers you. They don't explain themselves, but they know you. They carry something you need, something you've forgotten but must reclaim. But you cannot find them while your inner world is drowning in distraction. As long as your eyes are glued to the surface of life, the symbolic dimension will remain veiled. This is why solitude is sacred. This is why silence matters. It is not an escape from life. It is an opening into its true depth. The loner does not choose silence because they are empty. They choose it because they are listening. They do not reject the world. They are trying to remember what the world has forgotten. The moment you begin to listen in this way, life itself becomes symbolic. Every encounter, every delay, every longing becomes a message encoded in the fabric of your experience. The external and internal begin to mirror each other. You realize you are not wandering aimlessly. You are being guided, initiated, taught. The world begins to shimmer with significance. The same patterns that rise from your dreams echo in the events of your waking life. You are not going crazy, you are going deep. This is the gift of walking alone. Without the noise, the soul steps forward. Without the crowd, the inner guide begins to speak. And though you may not understand it all at once, something in you recognizes the truth of it. The symbol doesn't tell you what to think, it tells you where to look. It does not give you answers, it awakens questions that matter. It draws you into a conversation with your own psyche, a dialogue with the sacred. And this conversation becomes the real path. When you do not walk with your feet, but with your attention. In a world where everyone is shouting to be seen, the loner listens. And because of this, they are found. not by others, but by meaning itself. The world often mistakes solitude for emptiness, silence for sadness, and the loner for someone who is lost. But this is a shallow understanding, born of fear and noise. The one who walks alone is not necessarily lonely. They are in the presence of something others cannot yet feel. In truth, they are accompanied by the only presence that has never left them, their own soul. They are not escaping life but sinking deeper into it. They are not isolating, they are incubating. What looks like retreat is in fact a return. The journey inward is not a rejection of connection. It is a preparation for true connection. Until the fragments of the self have been gathered, until the inner war has been witnessed and embraced, no relationship with the outer world can be whole. The loner is not avoiding the world. They are refusing to meet it with a mask. They are waiting until they can offer something real, and that waiting, that space of apparent absence, is where integration begins. Wholeness is not perfection. It is not the absence of flaws or the elimination of contradiction. It is the weaving together of all that has been disowned, the rage, the grief, the desire, the tenderness. It is the courage to say, "This is also me." The loner meets their pain not as a victim, but as a witness. They stop splitting themselves into good and bad, acceptable and shameful. In doing so, they begin to carry their full self, not in pieces, but in harmony. This is a holy process. To walk alone is to remember what the world told you to forget, to reclaim the inner child that was silenced, to honor the dream that didn't make sense to anyone else, to feel the emotions you were told to suppress. It is a resurrection, not of someone new, but of who you were before the world taught you to perform. Paradoxically, the deeper you go into solitude, the more universal you become. You realize that the fears you thought were only yours are everyone's. That the shadow you feared was unique to you lives in all human hearts. The deeper you touch your own soul, the more connected you become to the soul of the world. The loner begins to feel less like an outsider and more like a vessel for truth, for depth, for the sacred silence others are too afraid to face. So the path of the loner is not exile, it is initiation. It is the crucible where the self stops fragmenting and begins to cohere, where the ego begins to bow to the soul, where wounds stop defining you and start transforming you. The loner is not retreating into emptiness, they are expanding into wholeness. And when they emerge, if they choose to, they carry something rare, the weight of their own truth, the clarity of heart, one vision and the capacity to be alone without being lost. They are not broken. They are becoming whole.